please? We are honored today to introduce two of our prominent figures in the world of French typography. Their work and outstanding contributions have shaped the contemporary typographic research and educational landscape of the past decade. Alice Savoie, is a talented type designer and a passionate researcher. Her extensive studies in visual communications and typographic design have led her to explore uncharted areas and to conduct historical research on 20th century French type foundries and the role of women within that time frame. Through her collaborations with the University of Reading or the Musée de l'Imprimerie in Lyon, Alice has deepened our understanding of the technological transition in type design. We look forward to hear her unique perspective on type design education. Thomas is a type designer and also a teacher. In addition to those roles, Thomas is also the director of the ANRT, National Typographic Research Workshop. Thomas has developed a type foundry 256TM, which allows him to bring his original alphabets to life. His typeface, Minuscule, has won numerous international awards, including a TDC NYC award. He's a member of the AGI, Alliance Graphique Internationale. Thomas is known for his ingenuity and innovation in typography. Together, Alice Savoie and Thomas Huot-Marchand will revisit the historical events that led to the construction of a pedagogy of typeface design in France over the last decades.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, ATypI, for having us. We are very honored that you're all still here, standing and sitting in this auditorium after these days of conference, which have been really exciting and with lots of fascinating talks and social gatherings as well. So, yeah, to introduce our topic, well, as John Barry demonstrated on Thursday, France and ATypI have a long shared history. The first president of ATypI was Charles Peignot, the head of the prestigious de Bernier and Peignot Type Foundry. And the conference was held in French cities at many occasions. It happened 5 times in Paris. Also, it happened once in Beaune in 1982 and in Lyon in 1998.
For obvious reasons, this year's edition of ATypI feels very special to us. Many of the talks you have seen were delivered by dear colleagues and former students of ours. And it has been delightful to meet again so many friends here in Paris. I think it's fair to say that the conference has been a testimony of the vitality of the French type design scene and of its type design education. And yet, we can also say that we have come a long way. This is why we would like to take this opportunity to look back, to try to understand why and how the French type industry went from being pretty much in a state of brain death to in the early 80s, to becoming again an exciting place for type designers.
Yes, so as Juliette Flécheux showed in her talk about the Scriptorium de Toulouse yesterday, I think it was yesterday, by the end of the 1970s, the French type industry was basically on the verge of collapsing. And that was the result of a number of missed opportunities, the sources of which can be traced back to the to the beginning of the 20th century. Sorry. There had been some missed opportunities with mechanical typesetting. Also, there was this issue of France being quite skeptical toward modernism, and that, I think, contributed to reinforcing the isolation of French design with regard to all the fresh ideas that were blowing across Europe between the two world wars. And paradoxically, the 1950s had been the scene of a rather spectacular upturn with Charles Peignot, who was very committed and involved in phototypesetting. You also had Adrian Friediger, who was working in Paris on emblematic designs for de Berny and Peignot, such as Univers. You also had Roger Excoffon, who was working for the Fonderie Olive. And you also had new actors arriving on the Parisian scene, like Albert Hollenstein, in the area of photo lettering. I think we're missing a slide here. Yeah, so we're missing a slide, so I'll just stay here. Yeah, I know, it's here. I think maybe also some of you, I hope, have seen Juan Magomez's excellent talk about Maximilien Vox, and he showed through the publication Caractère Noël how Vox advocated a kind of national style known as graphie latine, which partly isolated the French typographic scene from the rest of Europe and Anglo-Saxon countries. But yeah, all of that period eventually proved to be a kind of swan song, because in the 1970s, the four main French type foundries closed their doors. And now that they were gone, the whole type industry was in danger in France. With the closure of these foundries, it also became difficult, if not impossible, for French type designers to publish their typefaces. Some established type designers were able to work with foreign type foundries, but basically most of the French designers had to diversify their activities in order to make a living, and there were very few prospects for the new generation of designers to make a career from type design. Also, with the demise of the foundries, the main channel to train a new generation of type designers had completely gone. Here we go. As a result of this dramatic turn of events, in 1979, Charles Peignot sounded the alarm. A plan of action was needed to save French typography. So we'll just quote a couple of sentences from his, that's one of his letters sounding the alarm.
All the French type foundries have disappeared.
The profession of type founders is, of type founding is dead in France.
Be more dramatic.
Go ahead.
The only French punch cutter will retire soon.
So as a result of this, an informal group was brought together, which was known as the Centre d'études et de recherche typographique, so we'll call it CERT, CERT, which gathered the main protagonists of the French-speaking scene, and the group met regularly and drafted an ambitious plan to revive the industry. We saw also this image in Juliette's talk yesterday. So Peignot's plea was heard, and in 1982, Jack Lang, the French Minister of Culture, which is here on the very left, committed to the creation of an inter-ministerial group for graphic design and typography in the hope to develop a rescue plan for the revival of the French type industry or French typography. On this picture, Jack Lang is standing next to Charles Peignot. This was on the 27th of September 1982. This was the day after the ATypI Congress in Bonn, and many important announcements were made on that day. So yeah, what were the ambitions of this recovery plan? Well, to relaunch the French typographic industry with the development of a French-made phototypesetting machine, and also the development of type education through the establishment of an Atelier National de Création Typographique within the Imprimerie Nationale. You will see in this video the French, so it's a very short video, the French Minister of Culture, Jack Lang, is discussing on primetime TV the alarming state of French typography. I told you that was quick. I don't know why this isn't working as it should. Au clavier? Au clavier. Non, toujours pas. All right.
Anyway.
You just have to imagine. So it was the greatest part of the talk. I'm sorry. No, so basically he talks specifically about Louis Moirou, who was one of the inventors of the phototypesetting machine named as the Lumitype, and he explains how this guy had to go to America to develop his machine, and how we have to bring him back to France to launch again the industry. And it's quite fun because the presenter asks him, and did he accept to come back? And yes, he did. So it's just to say that this was probably the one and only time that a French minister would talk about typography on national TV at a prime time. Well, it turns out the phototypesetting machine would never be produced, but the atelier, the ANCT, would open 3 years later. It was meant to serve as a bridge between the few institutions throughout France where typeface design, calligraphy, or lettering, or stone carving were part of the curriculum. So among them you had the École Estienne, the École des Beaux-Arts in Besançon, and of course the Scriptorium de Toulouse, which was discussed by Juliette Fleischer yesterday. But despite the activity of these few schools, type design was not seriously taught anywhere in France at that period. Typography, lettering, calligraphy, stone carving were part of the curriculum, but designing a typeface remained a kind of a privilege. The only option for young aspiring type designers was to send their designs to competitions that were organized by some of the transfer lettering companies that Dan Rattigan mentioned in this excellent talk today. So companies like Letraset or Mecanorma. Yeah, apart from these, and these aimed mostly towards display, but the opportunities to publish typefaces were pretty much non-existent. And as I said, the disappearance of the French foundries a decade earlier had deprived a generation of designers of this opportunity. And so they turned instead to calligraphy and to stone carving, which appeared to be a more viable option to make a good living at the time. Yeah, the programs of the Rencontre de Lure, or the Rencontre de Besançon, and also at the Scriptorium de Toulouse, they kind of echoed the revival of these crafts. And they were also fueled by the concept of the Graphie Latine movement of the previous generations. And these approaches often overemphasized the relationship between type and the notion of gesture, gestuality. It could also be seen to some extent as a form of resistance to the kind of domination of the German and Anglo-Saxon foundries in an industry that was now becoming global in scale. And in contrast to these traditional practices that were calligraphy and stone carving, new technological perspectives were emerging at the same time. What was at the time called telematics, in French télématique, with the development of computers and networks and the promises of a new typographic paradigm on screen. There was one place at the time in France which really was at the forefront of digital typography. It was the IRISA laboratory in Rennes, and Jacques André, who is a computer science researcher, had extended an invitation to the pioneers of digital typography, who were working with Donald Knuth at Stanford University. Jacques André even organized in Rennes in May 1983 a seminar on digital type technology with Chuck Biglow and Richard Southall. They also had a Metafont workshop. But yeah, Richard Southall noted there were some type designers there, including Adrian Frudiger, Ladislas Mandel. But yeah, Richard Southall noted that these two categories of people did not mix very much, and the feeling was that typographers and computer scientists did not speak the same language.
Okay, A handful of French entrepreneurs also understood the opportunity that digital technology represented for an industry that had been reduced to pretty much nothing in France at the time. The company Microtype was founded in January 1982 by Nicole Croix. With the help of Jacques Michaud, it supplied matrices to various phototypesetting companies, such as Wang Graphic System, Singer, and CompuGraphic. You saw the list on top of this specimen. And do you remember this photo from ATypI 1982? Next to Charles Peignot are Jacques Michaud and Nicole Croix. Nicole Croix opened up the activity of Microtype to digital technologies, which were being developed in Germany and the United States at the time. Following a change of career, she became interested in this field, traveling to Palo Alto, where she met Donald Knuth and his students. The Department of Art and Computer Science was then very active in the field of digital typography, with the development, for instance, of the softwares TeX and Metafont. Nicole attended also the historical 1983 seminar in Stanford. Nicole Croix also established a rewarding partnership with the URW company in Hamburg, co-founded by Peter Caro in 1971. In 1972, Peter Caro developed Icarus, which allowed for the digitization of typefaces using a tablet and a pointer. Microtype very quickly equipped themselves with the Icarus system. This is a puck used for hand digitization, and this is an Icarus tablet, but for the later version for Macintosh, Icarus M. So Microtype designers digitize typefaces for URW, extending existing typefaces for specific needs, including in scripts other than Latin, such as Arabic and Cyrillic, or adapting older typefaces or creating bespoke ones, like the Garamond of the famous collection La Pléiade was designed there by Microtype. The whole profession at the time came to Bonn to discover this new technology and occasionally even to be trained on Icarus and this new technology. Very few companies in the world at the time had the expertise of Microtype, which soon attracted international customers, such as a brand new company at the time called Microsoft. The company employed up to 25 people in Bonn, and among them the young French type designer François Boltana, who would soon become a pioneer in digital type. The pictures are taken at Microtype on the left. This leads us to another venture, rather short-lived. In line with the recovery plan, the project of a French phototypesetting machine was supported by the French government. Desktop publishing did not yet exist, and the last generations of phototypesetting machines, both smaller and less expensive, represented at the time a promising market. You saw earlier Jack Lang saying that the French inventor, you didn't actually, but very fast. You didn't. So Jack Lang saying that the French inventor of phototypesetting had been asked to come back to France from the US to save the French type industry. He was talking about Louis Moirou. Well, the plan was officially launched in 1983 and involved, from its inception, Louis Moirou, one of the two inventors of the Lumitype machine. But by then, Moirou was part of the Bob's Graphic company in Lausanne. So a group was formed in Strasbourg, calling itself Graphitel, which undertook to manufacture a French laser phototypesetting machine. The Graphitel AC phototypesetting machine, fruit of a collaboration between Moirou and Michel Moulin, was presented in 1986. The early tests of this machine were very promising in terms of quality. Digital typeface were, of course, needed to run it, and Microtype company was responsible for digitizing the future type library. Under the supervision of the Swiss type designer Hans-Jürg Hunziker, Microtype designer digitized existing typefaces with Icarus, as well as new design such as Messidor by Ladislas Mandel and Mediavilla, named after its author. But this phototypesetting machine was never mass-produced, and the industrial adventure ended with the Graphitel company filing for bankruptcy in 1987. This led to the collapse of Microtype, which closed its door 4 years later. When it was launched, the Graphitel phototypesetting machine project was at the cutting edge of the technology. What caused its failure? The emergence, at the same time, of course, of desktop publishing in the Silicon Valley. PostScript would shortly after emerge as the new standard for the type industry. The Microtype adventure has been kind of forgotten today, but we feel it is important to mention it today because Nicole Croix and Jacques Michaud were really pioneers in the 1980s, and they gathered much of the French typographic community at the time. And Nicole was a key figure of this French industry. Last year, I was very lucky to meet Nicole together with Juliette Flécheux. We delivered the talk about the Scriptorium de Toulouse. And in fact, Nicole is here tonight with us, which is a great honor. I think we can applaud.
Yeah, with the failure of the phototypesetting project that was intended to revive the French type industry, the last option that was left for the French institutions was to invest its effort and resources in a training program, which led to the creation of the ANCT, so Atelier National de Création Typographique, in 1985. So the project involved the creation of a teaching space, which would be part of the Imprimerie Nationale, as I said, under the supervision of the École Nationale Supérieure des Arts Décoratifs, ENSAD, in Paris. So the ANCT opened in December 1985 with its first trainee, Franck Jalot, a former student of the Scriptorium de Toulouse, and Tung Lyman-Go. Franck Jalot would join the teaching staff soon after, once he had completed his training. Between 1985 and 1988, type design at ANCT was taught by Ladislas Mandel and José Mendoza. Mandel had been trained at the Foundry de Berny and Pignot with Frutiger, and Mendoza had worked alongside Roger Excoffon at the Fonderie Olive. The first students of ANCT worked on reviving a number of typefaces such as Gautier, that had been created at the Imprimerie Nationale originally. Perrin, that was based on the work of the Lyonnais publisher Louis Perrin. And as you can see from this, the design of the typefaces was done for the most part by hand. The drawings were done on tracing paper, and then many versions of the drawings were produced before inking them. And then they were reproduced at a reduced size, and they were pasted up, patiently assembled by hand, photographically reduced to judge the text in smaller size. That's what we used to do before all these wonderful software. This is a paste-up of Anisson, an ambitious project of large-scale French design that was proposed by Ladislas Mandel and that was inspired by a typeface by Pierre-Simon Fournier.
In the late 80s, changes in the pedagogical approach led to some internal conflicts between the original team of French teachers, that including Mandel and Mendoza, and the team of teachers connected to NSAT Paris, that included a number of Swiss typographers living in Paris, including Peter Keller, who was appointed as the ANCT director in 1990. Mandel stopped working in the atelier in 1988, and Mendoza 2 years later, followed by Franck Jalot. In August 1991, Mandel gave a conference at the Rencontre Internationale de Lure, which was still an active foyer for Graphie Latine at the time. Mandel implied that an all-Swiss team of designers could not possibly be tasked with rehabilitating French typography, and declared that the dream of rehabilitating French typography had vanished. In his opinion, at least. Again, this takes us back to this fantasy of a French Latin heritage, as discussed by Juan Magonez this afternoon. Nevertheless, c'est à toi. Sorry.
Nevertheless, in 1990, Peter Keller took over the direction of ANCT with a new pedagogical project. He opened up a number of new perspectives for the atelier, and he pushed past a kind of more self-centered vision of the revival of French typography and emphasized the necessity of opening up to the international scene and to an enlarged practice of typeface design. So the team now included Albert Botton, Hans-Jörg Hunziker, Rudi Meyer, and Jean Widmer. It displayed a balance between type and graphic designers. It also obviously introduced the legacy of Swiss modernism. And this can be felt in the work that was produced at that period. You can also see a greater diversity of projects and a more international pool of students that came to the atelier at the time with a desire to experiment. And the ANCT also acquired a new visual identity designed by Margaret Gray in the same year, and that appeared on the first call for application poster, which was set in 4 languages, so in French, English, German, and Japanese. As for typeface design, Botton and Hunziker, who had both worked with Adrian Früdiger, carried on the approach used of drawing on tracing paper. Also starting in 1991, the atelier also was equipped with Macintosh computers, an Icarus tablet, which enabled the digitization of typefaces, and 5 years later they also introduced Fontographer, the software, the first digital font editor for a wide audience. So in 1997, ANCT left the Imprimerie Nationale to join NSAT Paris. It became ANRT in the process. And the atelier would move once again in 2000 to the École des Beaux-Arts in Nancy with a partly renewed team. And you see here as well Jean Widmer, who is also with us tonight.
So in 2016, I edited this catalog, a retrospective of ANRT's first 2 decades. From 1985 to 2006, 100 students studied there. In the biographies in the end of the volume, you can see that the vast majority of them turned to teach typography afterwards. Alumni of this period, like Serge Corstesi, Jean-François Porchez, André Baldinger, Roxane Jubert, Jérôme Knebusch, François Chastanet, David Poulard, now play quite a significant role in type education in France and also abroad. People like Peter Bilac, Alejandro Lo Celso, Leonardo Vasquez, or Mathieu Corta.
In parallel to the training of a new generation of designers at ANRT, it's important to mention here the creation of the Atelier de création typographique at the École Estienne in 1991-1992, created by Franck Jalot along with Michel Der, and they were joined by Margaret Gray in 1994. And all 3 of them came from the ANCT. The pedagogy that was put in place by Franck, Michel, and Margaret involved the learning of typeface design, calligraphy, and their layout in a very concentrated and intense fashion, so to say. I was told by them, so that's why I'm saying that. And I think many people in this room were as well. So the methods that were taught were directly derived from those that had been developed and perfected by Mendoza and Mandel. The atelier de création typographique signaled really a new beginning, which in the early years of its existence remained quite close in spirit to the early years of the ANCT. It continued to approach typeface design in the broadest possible sense, and this still continues to be the case today. So yeah, the program is still run today by the original team. They've been joined by other colleagues like Stérène Bourgeois, Philippe Buchinger, formerly Raphaël Lefebvre, who has been very actively participating in the organization of this conference. Thank you, Raphaël. For those of you who know Sébastien Morleghem, he was part of the first prom to be trained in this course. And yet this program, this excellent program, has introduced a large number of students to typography, and I would say that many representatives of French type design are the direct result of it. And what could cite, for instance, Jean-Baptiste Levé, who some of you may know, Damien Gauthier, Ludivine Noiseau, Julien Priez, also Johan Minet and Julia Joffre, who made the identity for this year's ATypI.
So despite everything that was happening at the time at ANRT and at the École Estienne, in the mid-2000s, the situation was not so good. The Scriptorium de Toulouse closed its door in 2005 and the ANRT in 2006. The following year, Jean-François Porchet class at ENSAT Paris was also interrupted. The École Estienne was then the only place in France where typeface design was still being taught. The result, sorry, it's your turn.
But yeah, as a result of that, yeah, you see, we've rehearsed. As a result of that, the whole generation of students, graduates of École Estienne or other art schools in France, left France in order to join master programs which specialized in type design, like the Type and Media Master at the KBK or the MATD at the University of Reading, which was my case. So these students, and I also speak for myself here, we discovered a very high quality of teaching in direct contact with an international scene. We also discovered other teaching methods, other approaches. We also had to express our ideas in English. I'm saying this because I also think that in the past, this linguistic barrier had maybe accentuated the disconnection of the French scene. Many of these people who went abroad pursued and continued their careers by joining major foundries worldwide. At the same time, a new generation of teachers introduced typeface design into schools of art and design by way of workshops, research studios, regular classes as well. We have this picture here of Alejandro Lo Celso, who studied at ANRT and also in Reading, of course. And he, at the time, did many workshops in France, including at the Beaux-Arts de Toulouse and at the Beaux-Arts in Metz.
In 2009, I was invited by Véronique Marier, to express my opinion in Graphisme en France, in an article where I argued in favor of type design education in art and design schools. I was thinking, and I still do, that art and design schools would benefit to integrate type design as early as possible in their curriculum. Not to do it exclusively, but to better understand the typographic shapes. And 10 years later, in the same publication, I was invited to take stock of type design education in France, and the observation is that the situation had clearly improved. For around 10 years now, the teaching of type design has become part of the curriculum of many French graphic design courses, both at undergraduate and postgraduate level. We hope all of you had the opportunity to visit the Type Ed exhibition in the other building. Morgane and Emily designed the poster, which shows the pedagogical work carried out in 9 schools across France, including the École Estienne, of course, ATypI, Pau, Type at Paris, ANRT, is that in Toulouse, Brenne, ENSBA Lyon, Fine Arts in Lyon, and among them, the ATypI program in Amiens, created in 2006, plays a significant role. Big up, guys. You may have seen their great talk yesterday. The path of its graduates testifies to the excellent quality of this training. For the most part, they establish practices as type designers and spread the reputation of young French design well beyond the borders of our country. And of course, ANRT. In 2012, after a closure of 6 years, I was appointed director of ANRT and was given a number of objectives: to treat and valorize its archives, to put together a new team of teachers, and to define a new scientific project. These challenges have since been met thanks to a team which currently includes Jérôme Knebusch, Charles Mazet, Émilie Rigaud, and Alice Savoie. Every year, since 2013, we welcome a new class of 6 students from all over the world, and today the atelier is located in the new building of the ENSAD Nancy. The recruitment is international and based both on the project proposed by applicants and on research programs established with partner laboratories. This new format has generated many collaborations in domains as diverse as computer science, linguistics, epigraphy, Egyptology, cartography, and so on. A recurring theme involves the role of type design in the field of digital humanities. There is a strong desire to do research through design, advocating type design as an essential lever. A number of these research programs can be seen in the nearby exhibition, TypeHead. Nearby the TypeHead exhibition, but not anymore. We just packed the exhibition this afternoon. Sorry about that, but I hope you saw it. But there's going to be a much bigger exhibition next October in Nancy to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the reopening of the atelier. See you then. A number of ANRT alumni have had the opportunity to share their research during this Congress, and it has been incredibly rewarding and heartwarming, I must say, for us to see that the seeds we have been planting over the last decade are now blooming so brilliantly. So congratulations, I'm so proud of you. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Before you go for drinks, I promise it's soon. But yeah, as Thomas has just shown, over the last 4 decades, the French type community went pretty much from being in a state of brain death to blooming again, and we love that. Juliette showed this photograph yesterday, and among the people who have contributed to its renaissance, one name has come up repeatedly. Someone who we feel needs to be acknowledged today. And this is Franck Jalot. He's in the room. He doesn't know we're doing this. So I assume that most of the French designers in the room will know Franck or his work, or have even been taught by him. But it's also very likely that most of the international audience in this room hardly know him. And yet, over the last 4 decades, Franck Jalot has played a key role in turning upside down the destiny of French type design, never just that. He's also a very modest person, and he hardly ever puts himself in the light. So we felt today's the right opportunity to do this on his behalf. Do you want to?
So in 1982, Franck was 20 years old and studying in the Beaux-Arts de Toulouse, School of Fine Arts in Toulouse, and at the Scriptorium under the guidance of Bernard Harine. Newly graduated from the Scriptorium, Franck was part, as we said earlier, of the first prom of ANCT at the Imprimerie Nationale in Paris in 1985. In 1987, in parallel to joining the teaching staff of the ANCT, he joined Imprimerie Nationale as an in-house type designer, a position he still holds today. This marked a turning point for the institution. While the typefaces created at the Imprimerie Nationale had always been crafted by punch cutters, Franck came in as a young type designer who created his letter form on paper and using digital vector drawings.
Also in 1987, his first typeface won the prestigious Frutiger Prize as part of the Morisawa competition. It was inspired by his practice of stone carving. The typeface is called Harine, as a tribute to the teacher who introduced him to both disciplines, Bernard Harine. So yeah, Franck has been working at the Imprimerie Nationale for 35 years now. And some of you have met him on Wednesday when we visited the Imprimerie Nationale. His role there has involved two main aspects: digitizing the patrimonial collection of punches held by the institution and designing new original typefaces for high security documents such as ID cards, passports, or fiduciary documents. Franck really played an important role in transmitting skills and knowledge from one generation to the next. He was deeply influenced by his apprenticeship with Bernard Harine and by his practice of stone cutting. He also developed a close working relationship with José Mendoza at ANCT. And you could say that his design style is somewhat an extension of that of Mendoza. It's strongly anchored in humanist tradition with the kind of a calligraphic note as well. And the shapes are strong, but they're never frozen. And you also find some audacious stylistic choices. Wait.
Oh, this is Jalot, a typeface design for the tax code, French tax code, which included 4 complementary designs: a sans, an old style, a modern style, and a slab, for a total of 32 versions. You can see here some of the little spikes or hair that had to be added to letter forms while digitizing letter forms using Icarus, the software I showed before. And for the Imprimerie Nationale, Franck has been producing a great many design adaptations of historical typefaces. He carried out superb revivals of most of the Imprimerie Nationale impressive collection of patrimonial punches, including the famous Grec du Roi, engraved by Claude Garamond between 1540 and 1550. Some of you had the luck to see it on Wednesday in Douai. So this is his impressive digitization on the occasion of the Olympics in Athens in 2004, I guess.
There is also the Garamond, or Romain de l'Université, which was not in fact cut by Garamond, but by Jean Janon in 1641. These are the punches that are held at the Imprimerie Nationale. This is a bit mean to those who couldn't come to us with us on Wednesday, but you get a glimpse of what we got to see. The Romain du Roi, cut by Grandjean. Sorry, that was you. After the famous plates.
No worries.
These are the plates, and these are the punches of Grandjean.
Luce cut by Louis-René Luce between 1740 and 1770.
The Didot millimétrique, also known as the Romain de l'Empereur, cut by Firmin Didot between 1812 and 1815. So this is again Franck's digitization and the punches.
Marcelin Legrand are the type de Charles X, cut between 1825 and 1832. And the punches again. And Gautier, yeah. By Louis Gautier. In the late 60s to 1978. Gautier was the punch cutter who was about to retire in Charles Peignot letter in the beginning of this talk.
So yeah, the collections of the Imprimerie Nationale also include many other scripts other than Latin, and so which were developed in the 19th century. And Franck digitized the Tifinagh typeface from the Imprimerie Nationale collection after a request from the Moroccan government.
And in parallel to his work for the Imprimerie Nationale, Franck has also developed over the years his own personal designs, many of which are absolutely worthwhile, but are not all currently distributed by type foundries, but some are. And so we would like to show them as well today. For example, Virgile typeface, which was distributed by ATypI in the 1990s.
Oxalis, whose capitals are clearly inspired by stone cutting, and the lowercase is much more leaning towards calligraphy. Francesco, which was inspired by the Venetian Renaissance printing types, including the work of Francesco Grifo. And actually, I think we've managed, yes. Oh, okay. It's okay. Because we have to finish and we have to go get some break. No, this, I mean, Juliette showed this yesterday in her talk, and it's Bernard Harin who taught Franck and who had, he did this, and it feels directly connected to Franck's typeface. And so Harin, yes, was his teacher.
Scripto, a script typeface, which won the Golden Award in the 1998 Maurice Award. It was later published at the Bureau des Affaires Typographiques and now is available at Production Type. In this detail, we can see a similar fluidity to the ligatures of the Grec du Roi by Claude Garamond. I don't know if you feel it, but it appeared when I enlarged this glyph. This gesture and the relationship that Franck Jalot always draws between writing and drawing is emblematic of the word of Franck. There is always a tension in the curves inherited from, in my opinion, from José Mendoza, and which is very, very representative of his own designs. In that respect, Franck could be considered as a direct inheritor of this gestural tradition that has circulated through French type design in the 20th century.
And yeah, Franck is also an incredibly skilled stone carver, and his engravings can be seen in many French cities, including on the Trocadero in Paris, also in New York at the UNO headquarters. This was supposed to be a video, but I fear, yeah, well, it was nice. Yeah. You missed it. But yeah, probably one of the most important reasons why we wanted to pay tribute to Franck Jalot today is also because of his pivotal role as a teacher. As we said, he created the Atelier de Création Typographique in Estienne with Michel Der and Margaret Gray. And I think we can say that Franck, Michel and Margaret, through their generosity, their skills, their enthusiasm for the discipline, have inspired many students over the years, and they have contributed to building a skilled, lively, and supportive community of type and graphic designers. I believe that many of the people who have helped run this conference, many people who have also spoken during this conference, are somehow connected to Franck, Michel, and Margaret. Franck teaches regular stone carving workshops to enthusiastic students of all ages, and to those who have attended them, these retreats are known for being a sort of time, like out of time. They're usually filled with some heavy stone lifting, some hard work, but also they're filled with laughter, with good food, and may I say, also with good wine as well.
And in 2019, the Imprimerie Nationale saw the design of its 8th exclusive typeface, Salamandre, designed by Franck. This is the crowning achievement of an impressive career and places him alongside Garamond, Janon, Grandjean, Jaujon, Luce, Marcelin Legrand, Firmin Didot, and Louis Gauthier. Salamandre is also the symbol. Yeah. Yes, this typeface is also the symbol of an approach to type design that Franck has been transmitting for more than 30 years, and which sees with this historic design its accomplishment. We are now to the conclusion of our talk and of this conference, and we tried to fit this story into a not so brief overview, but we felt it is important to acknowledge some of the essential figures that shaped the current situation. At a time of a complete change in both economic and technological terms, these people tirelessly endeavored to transmit and share their knowledge to allow a new generation of designers to flourish. A generation which have moved beyond past rifts and division, past opposed antagonistic vision of typeface design and its pedagogy. In 2018, Jerry Leonidas told me that for years I used to refer to typographic France as the sleeping giant. And in recent years, I think the giant is beginning to wake up. So it was a very catch-up praise by Jerry, thank you for that. And indeed, what a road has been traveled since Charles Peignot note on the closure of French foundries. The gamble has ultimately paid off. The revival of French typography through its transmission. We hope this year's ATypI conference has provided a convincing demonstration of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.